GG, Gallaro Gaming. Builds, guides, walkthroughs, and gameplay.
Alright, so recently, the new Assassin's Creed just dropped, Valhalla. Let me just say, this game is amazing. The graphics on it are beautiful. Its combat system is amazing. It plays very, very well, and it has a very diverse gameplay type on it. You want to be stealthy? Just like any other Assassin's Creed game, you most certainly can through most of it. There's some areas where you obviously can't, but that happens. If you want to just go through and ransack every area that you want to, so far, looks like you can. Now, they start you off as a child, giving you a little bit of backstory of where your character comes from, what they were doing when they were growing up, and how things started off with. And then while you're doing that, you get your name, or your title anyways that they give you, Wolf Kissed. When you get attacked by a wolf as a kid, when you're running away from the village, while your village is being raided by another clan, which lays down your backstory of why you hate the person that you have to go kill in the very beginning of the game. Your very first few missions involve hunting down this individual, which brings you into the primary enemy of the Assassin's Creed Order and gets you introduced into the Order of the Shadows and shows you how you get your blade and everything like that is all done in the very beginning of the game. It's nice. They lay the story out real quick and then they start you off going into everything. Now, there's a few things in the beginning that I'll talk about as to what might be a little hard. I mean, there was one guy to fight there that was a pain in the butt, and there was a few other areas that might have been a little bit of a hookup, but for the most part the intro is very easy and the combat system flows well. Alright, so the first section that we're going to talk about in this is going to be the combat and the way that the combat itself works. Now, you've got a lot of different weapons to choose from. Go ahead, pick them all up, test them all out. So far in the intro section itself, you'll get a dagger, a couple of different one-handed axes, a two-handed axe, a flail. You'll get a few different weapons that you can try out, and go ahead and test them all out. Pick the style that plays well for you. Pick the style you like. Personally, I prefer a little bit faster paced combat, so I like the quicker one-hands to use. You also get a shield. An important thing that they don't tell you is that hitting your block button at the right time on orange attacks activates the parry. This will stun the enemy and give you an opening on them. So if you time your block right on orange attacks, you can get a good parry to open them up to where you can go in and lay some damage on them. Red attacks must be dodged. Make sure you dodge out of the way for those. They hurt a lot. And then against guys with shield, your heavies work great on breaking their shields and pushing them down to the ground, where you can then just lay some flat out damage before they get back up. Now, personally, I'm a fan of the bows in here and going stealthy. So headshots are nice and easy. The predator bow that you'll get is great. You do get a quick bow later on in game. You don't get one in the intro. Your regular hunting bow's got a lot of ammo on it. You can use it to pick off people at a medium distance, nice and easy. You'll get most of the trash mobs in one shot. And when you're using the bow, if you're highlighting on a target and you see them bright orange sections, those sections will stun the enemy and do a little bit of additional damage to them. This works great for setting up to do something else. And also, depending on what type of target it is, this may make them drop their weapon or cause their combat to work differently. You can change the flow and debilitate the enemy. And headshots will obviously do the most damage. Sometimes if it doesn't kill them, it will stun them though. So there's that as well. And then there's your stealth styles. You can pick up the multi-assassinate, where you, after you get one, if there's somebody close enough in range, you can throw an axe to get a second kill. Or if you're really close, you can get a multi-kill just from assassinates, bouncing from one to the next. Staying stealthy, hiding in the bush, pressing your whistle button to bring them towards you. You'll jump out, you'll pull them into the bush, take them out right there where they're already hidden. You don't have to hide the body. If you work on it, you can get through most of the encampments without ever being noticed. You'll be able to unlock a skill for assassinating higher value targets, where you can go in, it'll give you a window and you can clip it and get the assassinate on a higher value target instead of just doing a little bit of damage to them. This is great, and it allows for your stealth play that you're used to as a more traditional styled Assassin's Creed gameplay. But you can also just go up to an area and press the raid button when you're approaching it in your boat and just take your whole squad right through an entire base that's on the water side. This is fun, and it's a different play style than what I'm used to with Assassin's Creed games. Normally it's primarily only focused on the stealth kills, where this one here, there's a lot of areas where you're literally just going to raid it. You don't have the option of stealth, which is making this one very different. You can go about your normal gameplay, and then you can go hit your raid targets later on in game, where it changes the play style. So where I would normally go full bow and arrow with stealth, kind of not use the melee combat so much throughout the game, this one here you're going to kind of want a little bit more balanced, or if you want just straight melee, be my guest and go get all of that. So this game plays a little differently than I'm used to with most Assassin's Creed games. It's a lot of fun though. It's a very good play style on it. Now on your map, you're going to have a few different indicators on there. The gold ones are going to be your treasure chests. It'll either have gear in them, will have upgrade materials, something of value like that, or skills, because you can find skills in this game such as the double axe throw that allows you to throw your axes at enemies. And then you've got the blue ones that are going to be points of interest, so they'll be either little side quests or something to that effect. They're listed on the map as mysteries. Some of them have like mini bosses, world bosses, things like that. Some of them will be go find and kill something of interest, or do this little quest with me, things like that. And you'll usually get some form of a reward for doing it. And I would highly suggest completing these. One of the points of interest was killing a giant elk that was there. It was kind of like a mini world boss fight, heavy hunt, whatever you want to call it. And then there was another one in the cave that was really hard to do, where you had to fight an old Viking and he would basically block or parry every move you did, and he hit like a brick. Now you don't necessarily have to do all these. I would highly suggest doing all of the gold ones because that's where you get a lot of your gear from. But the other ones will just give you more of something, more materials, more money. They help out your character and increase your gameplay, and a lot of times they'll give you a little bit more story or background into something, and it's always nice to have that. When you're playing this type of game, you're playing it for the story and for the gameplay. Make sure to utilize your Raven. The Raven vision helps you locate things around you, such as chests, points of interest, items, things that can be around you. And your Raven itself, when you click it to fly, will allow you to look at everything that's around you, see potential enemies, get into layout of the base, and when you fly it over one of the indicators, i.e. the gold indicators or the blue indicators, it will tell you what type of indicator it is. So it'll tell you if it's a weapon box, a treasure chest, what type of mission you're going to get, so you have an idea of what you're getting into, or whether or not it's a high priority that needs to be done now, or if it can wait till later. Personally, I find your Raven to be one of the biggest boons in the game because it allows you to pre-strategize before going into any engagement, and allows you to know what you're getting into and what you're going after when you're looking for loot and gear. Now there's also going to be a few little mini games that you can find and play. I would suggest learning to do them first in your home city there, where you don't have to pay to learn how to play it. If you go and you do it in the other city that's there, you'll have to place a bet first for most of them and things like that. Now the dice game is rather fun. I've enjoyed that. It's kind of like a card game almost. You gotta strategize it, figure out what ones you want to keep, how the opponent rolls their things and chooses what they choose, and go off of that. Your goal is to make them run out of stones. There's also the drinking competition, and then there's the wordplay one, where it's kind of like a old school rap battle type of thing. Basically you're just rhyming back and forth to a beat that's set on there. It's rather interesting. They've done a little bit of work on those. They're certainly fun and different to do, and they kind of break up some of the monotony that you might find of doing the same basic type of mission a few times over. Now these mini games are good for making a little bit extra gold, placing bets on them, and increasing the amount of money that you make from them when you win. It's certainly a little bit of fun. Definitely some of them take timing, some of them take understanding. So it's a great way to make a little extra coin on the side and just go do something that's a little different for a brief period of time. There's a great way to increase your specific type of playstyle between your skills and abilities. Your skill window is going to have the big skill tree. The more tabs that you unlock, the more areas that you open up, and the more skills you have available to you. More points you spend, more sections you unlock. It's a very in-depth skill tree that goes all over the place. And basically it's broken up into 3 sections: stealth, ranged, melee. Melee is up top, stealth is to the bottom left, and ranged to the bottom right. Now there's obviously parts in each of these categories that cross over from the other category. That way you at least have somewhat of an even build regardless of which section you're going into. Personally, I like speccing into stealth and then ranged first, but I'll be throwing some points up into melee here pretty soon. These will basically just give your character stat bonuses to help keep you up in combat, and as the content gets harder, you'll have better stats, so it'll help even out the playing field a little bit. And these things will also allow you to customize the way that your character plays depending on what you're doing. Like there's one that allows you to switch your offhands and your main hand weapons. That way you can go from having, let's say, a dagger and an axe to an axe and a dagger as your primary, changing your secondary skill, because when you dual wield your offhand key, if you have 2 weapons, if you press and hold your offhand button, it will actually give you a skill or ability that you use there. So like dual wielding axes, you charge forward, smashing your axes forward. Rather interesting ability, good way to improve dual wielding and show that there's a different form of combat. And then you've also got your abilities tab, which is specific abilities such as the axe throw, and eventually you'll get a harpoon spear where you throw the harpoon at somebody and then you pull the rope to one side and you fling them off to that direction. And there's a multi-shot for your arrows. There's different abilities that you'll unlock throughout the game that you can specifically use 8 of them, 4 for melee, 4 for ranged, to complement your personal play style and increase your combat effectiveness. So you can pick and choose where you're going in your skill tree. You can look up and see the entirety of the skill tree online. That way you have an idea of where you want to progress in to get to certain types of skills and stuff like that to unlock those abilities that you get. You find by, oh wait, the golden icons on your map. So the more of those you get, the more customization you can have with your abilities to sync up with your skills to make everything flow. It's all about getting a good combat rhythm going. And once you get that good combat rhythm going, you're ready to go on to the next stage of Assassin's Creed and start taking on the bigger enemies and the harder areas that will come in the game. Alrighty, well gamers, thank you for tuning in and enjoy whatever world you're jumping into next.